Hello, my friend. Welcome to today's episode, and we're going to go on a little bit of a rant about why we do not learn about our hormones in school. This is something where if you are listening to any sort of hormonal health podcast episode or seeing in the comments of various content on social media, it's like women are asking the question, why don't we learn this in school? Why don't we learn this in school? Why are we learning this or learning this obscure thing in school instead of something about our biology? And I've got, I think, a hot take on it. And I think this hot take is going to help you reframe of taking away the why don't I know this and instead looking at it from a place of empowerment of this is my opportunity to. And I'm not going to cut to an intro or anything like that. So let's just straight up talk about it. But first I wanted to let you know about on Patreon. I love to do faith-based content in Patreon, and it came to my heart this month that I wanted to look at the differentiation of success through the lens of what God deems as successful and success in the way I personally have thought and experienced and felt and conditioning and various things of how the world sees success. And in 2023, I was all about building my business God's way greater than world's way. But now I'm looking at it from the lens of success God's way. And I'm kicking this off by the book of Jeremiah. And I'm open to letting God's guidance come in giving me other tools and resources. But I share on the episode posted May 21st about why Jeremiah, why this pursuit of looking at how does God define success versus the world's way of defining success. And I'm going to do an updated episode in there because I did a journaling session on this and it led to a conversation with my husband, which was really profound and really great, because some of those things on that list where I'm like, oh yeah, I bet for sure God is going to say that checks, right? That's on point. And then clearly other things where it's like, that's so interesting. Where did I pick that up at? The other thing that I wanted to ask you guys is, how did you like the series with my entrepreneur friends sharing about their journeys? I know not all of you are in entrepreneurship. I've got a wide variety of ladies, stay-at-home moms on here, but are you just here for the hormone stuff, or are you guys here for everything, like the lifestyle, the wellness, the tips, the rants, and everything in between? I actually was listening to a podcast episode that was titled in a way of this is what you need to know. And it was saying your audience isn't going to listen to other things and other interests. And I was like, I wonder if that's true for my audience. And if you could go and leave a rating and review on Apple or Spotify where you're listening, or send me a DM on if you like the variety of topics, if you like a specific topic, health, fitness, hormones. I can tell by the analytics, you guys are still really into that. But you guys, as women in our 30s and as we go into our 40s and our 50s, we need to know that we are so much more than what our body looks like. And we want to focus on what our body can do and what our body allows us to do. And I think next week's episode is going to really round that out. So let's talk about the rant of why are we not taught about hormones in school? Well, think about that. I guess it is very different depending on where you live, what is covered in school. But in my opinion, at the time of what I learned, it was appropriate for the age I was, and also respectful of the school isn't the parent and the school isn't a doctor. Okay. And when we are in puberty, hormones are doing very different things than a woman who's in her 40s going through perimenopause. And really, I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends where it's like, once we hit our mid 30s, we're really starting to notice how the fluctuations of our hormones impact us more than when they did in their 20s. But a lot of these hormone cycle syncing at girlies who are so cute, they're in their 20s, and then ladies in their 40s are like trying to follow and learn what they're sharing and teaching. And what perimenopause and what we're going through is vastly different than a girl who's 25. Like, the information that I was taking in when I was learning all about this in my late 20s, I was really reading from the lens of like after puberty. And now I'm looking into perimenopause things, because perimenopause is around the corner. Like, might be 5 years, might be a duration of years, but I just want to be educated so I know what to expect. And I was listening to something and I see the comment all the time of like, why don't we learn about this in school? Well, even if we were taught about this in school at age 15, 16, 17, 18, we wouldn't even be interested in retaining the information about, oh, well, when you turn 40, this is what your changing and shifting of hormones into perimenopause may feel like. And then this is what menopause is going to feel like, because it just wouldn't be relative information. I mean, I've heard that it gives me the kind of same essence of when you are talking to your kids about something that they should do. You want to talk to them in the context of like what's important to them, not necessarily why they quote unquote should, which I don't even like using the word should, but you know what I mean? So for example, like, why should they get their homework done? Just saying that they should so they get good grades might not be a motivator, but saying, you know, putting time, energy, and attention into this is going to allow you to stay on the basketball team. Or if you have, like, just depends on the parent, right? Like, for some, it's like an honor roll system. We don't do that. We're not in that phase of life. But I just remember hearing that advice of when you're really talking to your kids about doing something, for example, eating healthy. I remember Chalene Johnson said this. This will be an easy reference for me to pull up. Chalene Johnson would talk to her kids about how they could have all of the junk food that they see before their games, but they were like, but if you want to play your absolute best and feel your absolute best, you might want to try fueling yourself with whole foods, like having an apple or this or that. And then she gave some like examples instead of having the fast food before you go do your sport. And one was a place of empowerment. It also was a place of motivation for them, because it was something that they cared about, because their brain isn't fully developed yet. And to teach, 15 to 18-year-old girls about what our body's going to go through in perimenopause. And it's also not, like I said, in my opinion, it's not their standpoint to delve in to such a personal topic. And everybody is different, and based off of stress and genetics and all of those things, giving a blanket, this is what's going to happen to you, isn't necessarily true. And so that's why it's important for us to seek out medical professionals that are educated and experts in the various areas, and to pay attention to the signs and symptoms that our body is giving us. And yes, do I wish there was just a generic of like, hey ladies, you're going to your 20s, this is what you should know. Hey ladies, you're going to your 30s, this is what you should know. Hey ladies, you're going into your 40s, this is what you should know. And it was more like mainstream from maybe the medical health point of offering education, but I hope you take it as a personal empowerment of not knowing about this stuff shouldn't make you feel defeated. And my living in sync method is entirely in my Patreon. Like, you guys can go in and learn about every single phase and what is supportive for each phase of your cycle for literally $5 a month and get more exclusive content. I just wanted to put all of my resources, because I still get asked about it, not frequently, but I still get asked about it. And I just wanted to have a space of like, well, if you're in the Patreon, you have full access to it. And coming at it from a place of empowerment, coming at it from a place of like, oh, I've got this app and I'm noticing my cycles aren't necessarily 28 days, they're 21 days. What could that mean? Well, maybe you can look for or ask for, if you want to send me a DM on some of my favorite hormone health books that are great to start with. And maybe even looking at, I think Dr. Jolene Brighton is so great. All of her stuff is so great. She has a variety of topics based off of like postpartum. She came out with one that's like, is this normal? And that one has been so good. It's very straightforward and she does not sugarcoat things. She talks about all the taboo topics even. And it's just been, I've been skimming through it slowly, but it's just peace of mind to know that it's there for me when I have a question or concern. But then also I'm still in pursuit of meeting a good match when it comes to a medical doctor and naturopathic doctors and just getting health information and then following my own tuition. But I don't think saying like the narrative of why don't we learn this school is beneficial for us, because I think it creates this narrative of like disempowerment and you're not in control and you don't have the choice and I don't know because nobody told me. And instead looking at a place and space of like, okay, this is what I'm noticing. This is what I'm feeling and experiencing. And it's time for me to start getting investigative and really taking in how you're feeling and what your symptoms are and what you're noticing as, collecting data and then using and presenting that data. I remember even sometimes when I was really struggling with my PMDD and I would just hit a rock bottom and I'd schedule an appointment with a therapist and I'd schedule an appointment with a doctor. And then I'd show up at that doctor visit. And because I felt good on that day, I'd be like, you know what? I'm feeling good. I don't have much concern at all. And now I'm very much collecting a note on my phone and taking awareness. For example, just me personally, and some might say this is oversharing, but I've been noticing in the recent cycles that I've had, they've gotten longer in duration. So I used to be 28 days on the nose. And now I'm starting to notice like they're longer in duration. And I'm going to see like, is this just an event? Is this an event that's happening because of stress? Is it because, I did catch some sort of virus this spring? That kind of stuff can throw off of your cycles. I'm not taking Baseline Plus currently. Like, is that also a factor? I'm taking in the awareness, which Baseline Plus is a hormone supplement that I started taking in like 2020 and really consistently took it for a long time. And then I just saw the stockpile of supplements in my pantry and I got kind of embarrassed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go through all of these supplements before I buy more. But I ran out of Baseline Plus a long time ago because I actually use it and take it. And I haven't been on it for a long time. And I'm like noticing all of this. And so right now I'm still collecting information. And the best way to just keep track of that is a note on my phone that's titled My Health. And I write down if I'm noticing something really crazy or really off the wall, I write it down so then I can take note of it. Is this consistent? Is this repetitive? Is this reoccurring? And it's not that I'm like writing in it every single day, you guys. Like, I think the last entry that I did on it was the last time I had the awareness of like, oh, my cycle was more than 28-ish days. How interesting. And then I can at least say, like, if I were to go into the doctor, I can then pinpoint, okay, this is what I noticed. This is when I started noticing it. This is how long it's been going on. So it's not just like going in blindly and being like, well, sometimes it's very factual. And when you go into a physician's appointment like that, prepared and with the receipts, basically, I really think I have been better received by physicians for that reason, right? And then, yeah, it's like, then when I go in there on a day where I'm feeling great, I've got good energy, I got a good night's sleep, and then I go and I'm like sitting there in chair and it's like, what do you want to talk about today? Is there anything going on? I'm like, no, nothing. It's like, no, girl, open up that app, take a look at it. Is you came in here, you made this appointment for a reason, if it's outside of a annual visit or whatnot. But I just want to give you back the power. This is up to you to investigate and decide and to learn. And the things that you delve into are going to be different than what your best friend delves into and what I delve into. And the things that symptoms I experience, I've had people reach out and like, what about thyroid condition? What about this? What about that? What about this? And that's why it's just so important to take notice of what's going on in your body, what's going on in your biology, what are your signs and symptoms, and then start looking for and investigating what kind of things can be beneficial and supportive for you. Like I said, I do love the Protea supplements. They have a thyroid, they have a Inkstify, which is a cortisol supplement, they have Baseline Plus. So supplementation route, I'm a big Protea fan. I really, really am. Amber, who is founder and co-founder of Protea's, I just trust her. She's like, she basically created these products so she could take them herself. And I have so much respect for her as a health professional, as a businesswoman. And then for like literature resources, Dr. Jolene Brighton is one of my favorite authors. And for podcasts, I mean, there's just an array of podcasts. Chalene Johnson is doing podcasts. If you put in hormone health in podcast app, like there are so many podcasts that are specifically in relation to that topic right now. But no matter what, just make sure you're taking note of your cycle, what you're feeling, what your symptoms are, and then that way you're not really guessing. And if you want to go even further, like get your hormones tested. Have somebody do a Dutch test or meet with and invest in an experienced professional that's actually going to test them. And I know I'm for sure saying this kind of like not in a hypocritical way, but I haven't gotten my hormones actually tested. I've just been relying on my own insight, understanding, and then research on it. But I feel confident in me doing that. But if some of you are like, I don't have time to keep doing all of this investigative work, I just hope this empowers you to continue to go on an investigative journey. And if you do seek support in helping you get answers, and then those answers aren't coming, or you're getting written off, or you're getting gaslit, find different people to have in your corner, because I do think that there are doctors out there that care genuinely and deeply. I do think that there are doctors that are passionate about what they do and they're educated and they're not just there to write a prescription. Yes, some are just there to write a prescription. Some are just there to be like, this is what it's like being a woman. But I don't think that's all of them. And I think if you really ask and reach out and go on your own investigative journey and you trial and error, you'll then land on somebody that is supportive, that's kind, that's caring. And then you'll be like, oh, that investigative work was all worth it because now I've got somebody in my corner with me. Or like with the Dr. Jolene Brighton book, it's like, I know I could have that resource to reference or whatever it is. Or if like I'm learning about perimenopause right now, and I'm experiencing these things in the next couple years, I'm like, oh, well, I knew that was going to be coming up because I had read about it and I've known about it because it's just something that's around the corner for me. I'm not an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old sitting in high school expecting to learn, care, and retain information about perimenopause, right? And also, ladies, and this is something Chalene Johnson's talked about a lot lately, is looking up to women that are aspirational and inspiring. I was once that 20-something-year-old on social media giving advice to moms and to other ladies that were further on in seasons of life. And what I'm saying is like, don't necessarily take advice from that 20-year-old who doesn't have kids, who's on birth control, that is like talking about cycle syncing or whatever. And then if you're in perimenopause or menopause, like even some of my cycle content, I do think it's a good thing to live in a beautifully cyclical way. But when you're listening to somebody who's like, this is how you balance your hormones, and they're in their 20s and you're going through perimenopause or menopause, your hormones are doing different things. So continue to look for inspiration and information from the people who are a chapter ahead. That's just where I'm going with things. That's just advice that I am taking for myself and sharing with you. And I do think it is wise advice. I was once that 20-year-old that was spewing out information on the internet, and I didn't know better. And I can confidently say a lot of those 20-something girlies, they don't know better, and that's okay. Like, there's no shade to that. I was once that, and now I know, right? So I'm looking at perimenopause information. I'm looking at the ladies who are in perimenopausal age. What are they doing for their fitness? What are they saying? Like, I wish I would have known, because I'm about to step into that phase, right? Seeking that wisdom from somebody who has been through it. So I hope this just empowers you. If it did, please let me know, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you loved what you heard or you want to share your favorite episode topics, please leave a rating and review. This helps the podcast growth and gives people an idea of what the podcast is all about. Something new and exciting that I wanted to share with you before we go is that we now have a Patreon page. This has replaced the Feminine Edge collective community in a cohesive place that is easier for me to manage and cheaper for you. If you are interested in our monthly classes, exclusive day in the life vlogs, Bible studies, community Q&A, and more, go to patreon.com/livingInSync and join for just $5 a month. Check out the show notes for any links or details of things referenced in today's episode, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one.